Hey mates, I'm Boomerang, and this is my first episode of Let's Play Hearts of Iron 4. I've been really excited to start this Let's Play series. I really love this game. It's a really immersive strategy game, and I'm sure you guys will love it. Alright, without further ado, let's get right into this. So, we're going to start a new 1936 scenario. This just allows us to put a bit of customization into our industrial base and start producing things that we want. Instead of just starting at the outbreak of World War II. That being said, we are going to choose a minor faction this time. We could choose a major faction, but I find it's a lot more rewarding and a lot more fun if we take a small faction and kind of, grow it up. So, that being said, we are going to play as my home country, Australia. It starts off pretty isolated, but I'm pretty sure we can build up to a pretty big regional power, maybe even a major power at the end of this. My kind of plans for domination might be probably take Indonesia from the Dutch and then move up through Malaysia, take Singapore, and maybe possibly even take the British Raj. Obviously we wouldn't be democratic at this stage. I'm thinking of going fascist. That'll just let us recruit a lot more men and make things a bit easier for us. But anyways, we're going to leave historical AI focuses on. I don't really want some weird stuff happening. For example, I don't want Russia declaring war on the US and Japan declaring war on bloody Italy or some weird crap. No, we're gonna go straight with historical AI. The only difference is actually us. So that should make it a bit more interesting. But yes, once you start your Hearts of Iron 4 game, you're presented with these little icons at the top. Now, you want to fill them out and get them all running their little things. So, first of all, I like to start off with national focus, because it kind of gives you a bit of a focus in your game, just lets you pathway down a certain thing. So we get 5 choices to start off with the generic tree, which Australia gets. I always go off with the industrial first because it allows you to get an extra research slot quite early, which is really, really useful. Considering that Australia only starts off with 2 slots, so that'd be a 50% boost to get another slot. So we are going to start off with industrial effort. What that's going to do is it's going to give us a 50% boost reduction in one of our industry researchers. Speaking of research, for my first slot, I think I'm going to take the basic machine tools. That'll give us a bit of more production efficiency cap, which makes it our factories a bit more efficient in producing guns. Also, we are also going to take electronic mechanical engineering to just reduce the research time. Now, I find it's a good thing to focus on industrial tech at the start of a world, just to make things a bit faster in producing things, because we don't really need infantry gear, for example, because we're not going to war for many years. Alright, let's start having a look at the constructions. Now, at the start of a game, it's usually good to focus on building more civilian factories. You'll notice that we only have 11 total factories here as Australia to start, and that's not too great. It's better than, say, New Zealand, but still not great. We can always build on it. So, I'm going to start off by building 2 civilian factories, one in South Australia and one in Queensland. Now, how civilian factories work is they are the way that you build other buildings. So you can see 6 of my civilian factories are being put into this production line, and as soon as it's done, as soon as the bar's finished, it'll jump into this next one. So the more civilian factories you have, you basically build things faster, and you can even get up to building multiple things at a time. Eventually, though, we're going to be moving on to building military factories, dockyards, and even infrastructure. Alright, now we've got that out of the way, we're going to move on to some production. So, let's have a look at this. We start off with Infantry Equipment 1, which isn't too bad as Australia, so we're going to put another factory into this. You'll notice that Australia starts off with low equipment in all of their divisions, so we're going to have to work pretty hard to fill that up, but once that's done, we should be able to stockpile it for the later war. Also, I think we should put an extra factory into towed artillery, maybe 2 factories. That'll just make it so we can add a lot of artillery into our divisions and make them a lot more powerful against these starting Dutch troops, which we'll be encountering in Papua New Guinea and Java. Alright, next up is free dockyards. To add something to your production lines, you just click on whichever one you want. For example, the build ships, and you just click on one. I'm going to build submarines because we've got a lot of land to cover, and submarines are quite cheap, as you can see. So, you know, if we can get a lot of submarines up, we can use stealth to keep all the potential enemies out of our base, or out of our homeland. So we're going to put both our dockyards on that. Now you'll notice we're missing 2 oil on this production line, so we're going to click on this, and we're going to click on oil, and we're going to get some oil from the US. We're going to trade a civilian factory for their oil, which is pretty handy. Alright, you can right click to get rid of these if you don't really want them up. So that's us basically done. So let's boost up the game speed to max here and just let it play. Now things start off pretty slow in this game, but soon they'll get really interesting with lots of wars going on. But using this time to our advantage, we're going to have a look at these political options here. Now when you build up enough political power, you're able to pick some different positions in your government for different people. Things like military, research boosts in different areas, theorists, which give you experience over time, which are really useful, and also political advisors. Now, I find the best first decision in picking a political advisor is Silent Workhorse, and I usually go off with him at the start. However, for my Australia playthrough, I'm going to do a fascist demagogue, because I said that I was going to be fascist this time. Although you can pick communist or democratic, but we already are democratic, as you can see here. Now, the thing with fascist governments is they're allowed to... They have many more diplomatic options. So if I right-click on, say, China, you can see that most of these are grayed out. Like, I can't really justify war against them, or I can't send volunteers if they're in a war. As a fascist government, they basically can do it when world tension is at, 0 and up, so, anytime. That was a really quick conquering of Ethiopia, holy cow. But yes, as I said, it's really fast for, they can do it at any time, whereas democracies have to wait until world tension is really high to start doing different things. Alright, it looks like we've got a new national focus ready, and also the Germans have remilitarized the Rhineland, which shows that World War II is approaching. Alright, let's get this national focus going. Alright, so a good first choice is always go for the research slot. So we're just going to follow this tree down. It also gives us access to 2 factories, which are really quite useful, especially in the early game, because they benefit towards your building speed, as I said. So we're going to beeline towards that. Further down the line with national focuses, I'm thinking once we've got the extra research slot, we're going to go to construction effort 3, which will give us a extra 2 civilian factories, so these 2 combined is like that. We can't go for the second research slot because we need 50 factories in total. We only have 18, so we're a while off. We might have to conquer most of Southeast Asia and this area up here, but we'll get there someday. Alright, Spanish Civil War has broken out. Now we want the nationalist side to win because they are obviously the fascists, and we might be able to have a potential ally in the future. Alright, our research is finished. So I think we're just going to go straight to mechanical computing. That gives us a 3% research time buff, which might not sound like too much, but once it like over the years, that's a big number of days saved there. At the end of this line, I think it gives you a good 20% bonus on researching, which is really useful. So we're going to get that. Alright, let's resume things. With researchers, usually early game, as I said, it's always good to get your production. In fact, always keep your production as good as you can at the time. So if we just reached 1937, I'd drop all of these and I'd just go, for the next one I'd always choose an industrial research. Same goes with the mechanical, because these, the engineering, because these are always, they allow you to do other things faster, and they allow you to build more tanks, build more guns, build more anything, and research things faster. So that's always a good thing to do. Speaking of military, I always recommend that you keep on top of your doctrines. Your doctrines are super useful in buffing your army. They are quite lengthy researches, but for instance, this is a huge one. Max planning plus 30%, which means that if you allow your planning time like before you attack, you get, I think, a total of 80% combat buffs to attack and defense, which is huge. But we've got a national focus, so let's have a look at that. We can do construction effort too. As I said, we're going straight to extra research slot, so let's get that done. But yes, after this, we are probably... Oh, hey look, another research. We are definitely going to go for this one, concentrated industry. This gives us a factory output of 20% extra. Now, notice that this does not apply to your civilian factories at all. This doesn't. It only applies to your factories and, I think, dockyards in producing. But it's still a good boost, because we need to get those guns ready for these guys. And as these two are mutually exclusive, I always go for this one, because this one only gives you a 10% boost. This gives you a 20% boost of output. This is better if you're in an area prone to bombing and destruction, so it just allows you to build your factories up faster. But this one is quite good for just output, so I always go for that, especially because we're in such an isolated position here in Australia. But after all these techs are done, I think we might go for Marines, because you notice that we're going to have to invade navally a lot of little regions here that are little islands. That we'll have to do kind of manually with naval invasions. So having some Marines to kind of push through as a kind of spearhead against the Dutch might be really useful. Alright, you notice we've got enough political power here to make a decision who we want as a political advisor. Now, I said that this guy's really good, and he is, but we're going to go for fascist demigod because we want a fascist government as soon as we can. We want to take a really early aggressive push against the Dutch, because once Germany starts making some aggressive moves here in Poland and then starts pushing through the Netherlands, they usually join the Allies, and that will mean that the British government will basically just send all their navies here, and they will just fuck me up. So if we take all of this area quite fast, I think we might have a chance in kind of controlling it. Also, if we can actually push them out of this region for good, the British, then that might be even better. Anyways, fascism on the rise. I think the younger generation will take up the torch, which would be, pretty good. We don't want some higher-ups just oppressing us all like they did in Germany. We want to take the nationalist pride in the personal kind of scale, I guess. Anyways, let's... while we're at it, we'll take all our divisions, let's just make an army out of them, because we want to train these guys up. We want to get some army experience. So how you do that, you select them all, you left click on one of these army guys. We're going to put a general in here while we're at it. We've got pretty good generals as Australia. We've got 2 level 4 generals and 1 level 3, which is still really good. So we're going to take Thomas Blamey, because he was the guy who... was in charge of the Kokoda campaign in World War II. So what more fitting a general for this purpose? Alright, we're going to pause the game here. So, with our army, we are going to rapid deploy, which we can do by left-clicking this button, and we can right-click on Darwin, which we're going to kind of prepare, we're going to muster our forces there. We don't really have to worry about defending, because who's going to attack us, really? So we're going to go up here, and we're going to exercise when they're ready. Alright, we've got a national focus, so let's have a look at what we want. Obviously, infrastructure effort. This adds 2 infrastructure, one in New South Wales and one in South Australia. What infrastructure is it basically does 2 things. It allows your resources to be moved around your territories better. You can see that here, in this region, 5 out of 61 resource are being used to kind of feed our men here. A lot of stuff going on here. Alright, so obviously we have enough resource, but say that we have a lot of troops and we only have 22 resource in this region, we can use infrastructure to boost this, and we can get more supplies for our men. Supplies come into the equation when you're basically fighting big wars, because troops in low supply suffer a lot of bad things, such as they lose their organization, and they also lose, they have a debuff. Anyways, we got our research finished, concentrated industry 1. So I think the next logical choice would be construction 1, because we want to get that construction speed up. See, we've nearly gotten our factory done, but it'd be better if we could do it faster. So we're going to jump on that construction 1. So let's get going here. Alright, it looks like we've got a few more ships. We've got 2 submarines, and they're in their own fleet. Okay, so if you want to deploy your ships to a certain fleet, you can click on this icon, and you can click on either a port, or you can click on a fleet. Now, I want them in the Australia Fleet 1, which will be soon my submarine fleet. So, you notice we got another submarine here, so 3 submarines, that's not too bad. So we're going to name this the submarine... Wait. We're going to name it Tony Abbott's... Oh, God. Stop the boats. Campaign. Oh. Well, that'll do. We're going to stop the boats with our submarines. Alright. So we can select them, and I'm going to set them to patrol the region up north to kind of prepare for my eventual invasion of this area up here in Indonesia. Alright. Let's choose our next national focus, infrastructure effort 2. We're so close to that extra research slot, it's going to come pretty soon. And let's keep going. But yeah, guys, I think this is a good place to leave it off here for today. But I'm sure next episode will be cool. We might be getting into some, maybe some combat. Seeing if our fascism support gets up, then we might be able to declare some war goals. I think it'd be mostly preparing for the war, but the war is coming. Alright. Well, thanks for watching, guys, and enjoy your day.